Hello, everyone, and welcome back to me, Shiva Wilson, and my channel LCUK, which, as you all know, stands for Legalized Cannabis United Kingdom. Now, today we're doing the LCUK show, and we have a marvelous guest from VOC Nederland, which is a Dutch campaign group around cannabis and law reform and advocacy. Is that right?
Yep.
Yep. His name is Derrick Bergman. Am I pronouncing
Yep.
that correctly? Yep, Derrick Bergman from VOC Netherlands. So we've got he's all the way in the Netherlands at the moment, and we had a slight issue with the time difference, but everything is solved. We're ready for the interview. So, Derrick, I'd like to start off just by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself. That's got nothing to do with cannabis, in fact.
Yes, I was born in the south of the Netherlands, in the small village where Vincent van Gogh started painting.
Yeah.
And as a child, I was very much interested in the books of Roald Dahl,
Oh,
the
yeah.
famous children's writer.
Mm.
And at the age of 7, if people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd say, I want to be a writer.
Uh-huh.
Because I thought that'd be a good life, if you're at home, you sit around,
Mm.
you write great stuff, people love it, and this is how you make money. I thought that'd be the life.
Mm.
And so, in a way, that this is why I chose to study journalism
Mm.
after high school, because I figured like to write anything of substance that's really worth writing and printing, you first
Mm.
need to live a bit and have some experience and
Mm.
meet people and have adventures, and that's
Yeah.
where the journalism came from basically. And then inevitably at some point we're going to get to the cannabis, because as I was studying journalism still in Utrecht, uh, I had just learned from one of the teachers that he told the class, not only there's this cliche, the news is on the street. You can find the news on the street. We say literally. And in my memory, right after that, I saw a little ad that stated, "We are looking for freelance journalists and photographers who have an affinity with smoking weed." And I'd never seen that in any job
Mm.
advertising like that. So I thought, I have to do something with it. It'd be great maybe to get this job, get this freelance job while I'm
Mm.
still studying. But even if I do not, I'm really interested in what kind of a media outlet would have that as basically the only thing that they ask of the staff.
Yeah.
So to meet, which is still like my oldest contact in the whole cannabis world in the Netherlands, Joop Mestrom, who
Mm.
these days he founded and he still runs a website called cnnbs.nl. It's like the biggest Dutch website on cannabis.
The video cut out for a bit there.
Hmm.
So,
So, as I explained, this is how I got to write about cannabis when I was still studying journalism, and it was actually not very long after that I attended my first High Times Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam.
mhm.
And being there and hearing a speech from Ed Rosenthal, the famous guru of ganja, that really made a big impact on me. I didn't realize at the time, but looking back, that really set me on a course, because it was such a great thing. He was like surrounded by people who wanted to ask him questions about growing weed, and at some point he got up on a chair and he said, "Hey everybody, I will answer all your grow questions, of course, but
Mm.
first I want to take a minute to thank the plant, to thank the
Oh,
cannabis plant, because the plant is what brought me here and what has afforded me to travel all around the world and meet so many great people and have this lifestyle and be in Amsterdam, this wonderful city right now. So yeah, let's thank the plant for that." The speech was longer, obviously. And
oh,
then,
that's really nice.
yeah, and then hearing that, how he talked about it, really made the coin drop for me, that cannabis is
Mm.
not just an interesting subject you can cover or write about as a journalist. It's
Mm.
really a whole world on its own, that
Mm.
so really from then on I thought, let's see what this is all about.
So that kind of leads me on to the second question, which was, what was your first interaction with or knowledge of cannabis? Your very first interaction with weed. First time you smoked it, for example, or knew about it.
First time I smoked it, I remember because I wrote about it once, and I thought back really, how was all this? And it was quite. You couldn't make it up. It was in. It was at a party. That's quite normal. But the address where the party was Paradijslaan. So Paradise Lane is where I got stoned for the first time. And this was like a big party by the daughter of a quite famous local artist, a painter. And this girl, she was then a girl, but she went on to become a very famous DJ in the Netherlands, Miss Jax. So she gave this sort of a garden party where most of the people were like they were older than me, and I don't even remember how I got myself in, because it was really, you know, it's that time when you are in high school that these things matter so much, you know, if you are allowed in at the in-crowd party, whatever. But somehow I got in, and I could see that they were passing around not a joint, but what they had, quite remarkable. It looked a bit like Aladdin's wonder lamp, and then they put in a chillum with a cloth around it to make it like airtight. They put it in. They put it in there, and then they could suck through the thing and light the chillum like that. So it was an interesting apparatus like that, smoking hash and putting in so much hash as you do in a chillum. That really a few drags were enough for me to
Sounds like an Aladdin's lamp, you say, yeah?
Yeah. So this is how I got high for the first time on Paradise Lane.
Paradise Lane.
I still live in Eindhoven, so quite often I pass through this street, you know, and pass through the house, by the house, and then I have to think, of course, of the first time. It has taken very, very long before they finally sort of. They did admit that the policy was like a big paradox, you know, that is really not a policy. But the stalemate for decades was, we cannot change because of international treaties. And even if we would change, it wouldn't matter much, because all the wheat that is grown in the Netherlands is exported. This was an even bigger lie than the first one, you know?
So let me see if I can summarize that. So you've got 5 grams. I'm going to get this wrong probably. 5 grams of any drug is legal to possess?
Cannabis. Not just cannabis. With the harder drugs, it's less. It's even less. I think it's like half a gram of heroin, maybe 2 ecstasy pills, like really the really personal amount for one hit, basically, almost.
So you can't really grow your plants inside because the police have a checklist, and if you get 2 points on the checklist, you get what happens then if you get the 2 points on the checklist?
You are treated as a professional weed grower. So the sentences that are there for professional growing, they apply to you. So you can go to jail effectively or get a high fine, which makes no sense. Makes no sense.
But you can have 5 plants in the outside so that you don't tick these marks on the checkbox, which are things like hydroponics, a light, ventilation system.
Yep.
Wow.
Selected seeds. Yep.
Selected seeds as well. That was an interesting point. So that means if you just buy them off a website, they still count as selected seeds. What's the alternative to selected seeds?
Seeds you find in your baggie from Colombia.
Right. I see. And
this is sort of similar now in Germany, to have a little bit of a sideline. It's a good tip for your listeners. If you are in Germany and you're not German and you're carrying cannabis, and the police ask you where you got it from, don't say you bought it in the Netherlands. Don't say you got it from a German. This is all forbidden. Say that you found it. I found it. It was laying in the park on the bench. then you're good.
Yeah.
You know, because it's legal to have it. Even for you as a foreigner, you can possess 25 grams now in Germany, which for me as a Dutch person is, of course, it breaks my heart how the
Oh,
Germans in this respect have passed us by. Not in total, I would say, but the right to possess. They have the right to possess.
yeah.
25 grams in public, 50 grams at home. In
At
the
home, yeah.
Netherlands, nothing.
Ah,
0 grams.
ah. But you said 5 grams is tolerated, yeah?
Yeah,
Does it count as decriminalization as such?
yeah,
Right.
but not legalization.
Yeah. And you're
So
saying like
any kind of
the
statement to say that cannabis is legal in the Netherlands is not true. Medical cannabis is legal. That is true. But non-medical cannabis is not legal. It's tolerated at best.
this brings me on to another point. So I visited Amsterdam recently and partook in some truffles from the smart shops. Can you tell us a bit about smart shops and their
Yeah,
legality?
yeah. Interesting thing. We used to have magic mushrooms, not a ban on magic mushrooms.
Mm.
I remember fighting with another organization, helping another organization to try to stop the ban on magic mushrooms, because back
Mm.
then we had 4 production facilities, super clean, like a laboratory where they were growing the magic mushrooms. They were providing all the smart shops in the country. You get a real good, what you call it, what you also get with medicine, the paper that you get where you can read all this shit,
Prescription?
about. No. What goes
Oh,
with
like
what's in the box.
right, the harm reduction advice kind of thing, the information about
Yeah,
the substance itself.
side effects, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So this was all there, really well written, and they could check it. These people were paying taxes. It was all great. You could buy Mexican, Hawaiian,
Mm.
fresh mushrooms, dried mushrooms, whatever you want. It was really, really good. And
Mm.
just because of stupid drug war bullshit hype over some French girl committing suicide in Amsterdam who was suicidal before, etc., they
Mm.
banned it. And
Mm.
you won't believe this story, but it is true. Because I write about drugs a long time, I hear all kinds of rumors. And one persistent rumor about the
Yeah.
ban on magic mushrooms was that the civil servant who wrote the law, who made the ban, actually
Yeah.
went on Wikipedia and 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 copy pasted all the mushrooms that were on Wikipedia into the law.
Huh.
And I couldn't really believe this. And then a few years later, I got to know this gentleman called Kai Hollemans,
Mm.
who has worked 10 years in the Ministry of Health in the Netherlands, in The Hague. And we
Mm.
get to talk, and he quit because he could no longer align it with his conscience what he was doing in his job, all the
Mm.
repression for psychedelic drugs.
Mm.
And he told me, without me even saying this Wikipedia thing, he said that he was the one that wrote the ban and that he did use Wikipedia to have the whole comprehensive list.
Wow.
But he also said that the truffles,
Mm.
this he knowingly did. He knew that a truffle is not technically the same as a
Mm.
mushroom. So he knew already that even with banning all these 170 different kinds of mushrooms that could have any trace amount of psychoactive substance in them,
Yeah.
he would still have the truffle, and the smart shops would still be able to sell the truffles. But the
Right.
story of the smart shop really is from when they started in the early 90s, I would say.
Mm.
The assortment that they had, the different kinds of products has changed all the time, but
Mm.
but the good products have always been banned, you know.
Right.
So they had a lot of magic mushrooms, and it was almost enough for them to make a living just selling good magic mushrooms in different varieties and dried and not dried. But when
Mm.
that got banned and they only had the truffles, they had to sell more stuff. So they would sell like more designer drug type things before they got banned, because
Mm.
they are legal licensed shops in a way.
Mm.
So they do not want to break the law. But as you probably know, designer drugs it's a question of just changing one molecule, and then it
Mm.
goes from illegal to legal or not illegal yet.
Yeah.
So they would sell these kind of things. They used to be able to sell ephedra, for instance, like natural speed.
Ah.
It's quite an interesting and safe drug, a good
Mm.
alternative for speed. But
Mm.
they ban it, and then you get other kinds of more synthetic designer drugs that are actually more risky.
Mm.
So the
So.
legality of the smart shops, I would say they are. What's interesting if you compare it to coffee shops is that it's a younger sector. The coffee shop
Mm.
started already in the early 70s, and the smart shops in the early 90s. And
Yeah.
they are a smaller group, and they are quite well organized. They have like a union, the Union of Smart Shops, and
Mm.
and I think they really, the majority of them is included in this. So this helps a lot with them reaching out to the government and trying to have better regulations and everything. So it's a very these are different worlds, because the coffee shops, they do not organize that much. They are uh, too much on their own and think they know best themselves. So they do not want to organize that much, which I think is very dumb.
Right. So when I was in the smart shops, I bought a load of different types of truffles. I found the final one that I tried was a 28-gram packet of some Hawaiian
Hmm.
one, which was like the strongest one, I think, available. I took the whole packet, and I didn't have the best of trips, I must say. I became
Mm.
intensely paranoid that the CIA were hunting me through the window of my hotel.
Yeah, yeah, it's no good.
Yeah, none of the truffles had any effects that were anything like magic mushrooms in my experience of shrooms. 7 grams of truffles does not equal 3.5 grams of
No,
mushrooms in my
no,
experience.
no.
So,
They're quite different. That's why it's such
yeah.
a shame that they banned them, because you could just get real good product and good information about dosing. And I
Mm.
used to do mushrooms. I don't do them anymore because the truffles, like you say, it's a shallow version, is my
Mm.
experience. Not that I have very much experience with shrooms. I'm more of a weed guy, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's
But I
such a
saw
shame.
in these smart shops they even had they had peyote, they had, is it kava or
Hmm.
can kava, and kratom, I think.
Hmm.
So all these
I
drugs
think
are banned in
kratom
the
is
UK.
I think kratom is technically illegal in the Netherlands.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
not sure, but I think it is. Yeah,
They had peyote, and I think, was it mescaline, or is peyote mescaline? I don't know.
yeah, it's the same. Yeah.
So that's allowed. That's a psychedelic thing.
Hmm. I don't think if you extract it, but I think the cactus is not banned.
Ah,
It's similar to
wow.
if you buy a grow kit. This is also interesting. You can buy
Mm.
a grow kit in a smart shop and grow out your own magic mushrooms. That is
Oh,
legal,
that's
because
fine.
technically the spores,
Yeah.
they you can eat the spores or whatever, you won't trip. It needs to be
Mm.
a mushroom first.
Mm.
So this is another typical Dutch way around things.
Way around things. So you've got some. Well, that's the way you've described it so far is that the laws are more liberal than the UK for sure.
Yeah,
There seems to be a little bit of leeway in the laws there for what you can do. You've got the legality of being able to use drugs, just a very small amount. We don't have that. Is that written into law kind of thing? Like, or is it just a
it's a principle that we have in our law that I know that Germany does not have, and we call it the opportunity principle. And it
right?
means that if a police officer sees something that is against the law, somebody is doing something against the law, he is not obliged to go and arrest this person or do something about it. It's up to his own judgment
Mm.
whether at that time and this kind of action, it's opportunistic for him, it's a good idea to actually do this or not. You can imagine if you are in a city and you see as a police officer someone crossing a red light, but there's nobody, not a car there, nothing, that you say, well, you know, I'll go like this and let him go. In Germany, no. They are obliged to do it. They can even lose their job if they do not, they have to do it, you know? So
Right.
this principle gives the opportunity, if they get written guidelines, which they do, this is why they will not, if they see me smoking a joint or having a baggie of weed, they will let me walk by. I'm an older guy by now, you know, etc. But so they have this space to act or not to act. And then the interesting thing is that this is written into guidelines, and this is quite a big part of the cannabis policy, where it's not in the law, but it's in the guidelines for the police saying, if it's only 5 grams, if it's this and that, don't do anything, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's nice that somewhere it's written down.
Yeah.
I feel like in the UK they've got like there seems to be a bit of a toleration practice, not necessarily a policy, but maybe there is some sort of policies where they would not arrest you. I've heard so many stories of people in
Yeah.
the UK saying, "Oh, the police just they'll just seize the weed, for example, and then let you carry on. That's it. You won't get any sanction, no warning or anything like that." Um, like they just say, or put it out, or like take the baggie, and then that's it. But that's not written into law anywhere. But there seems to be some of this practice going on in the UK, and then you get occasional cases where people are arrested and have to spend 24 hours in a cell. Um, and I think it's like for the major growers, we're always getting stories about busts going on of growers. Do you get much of that? These big busts, police operations taking down major growers in the Netherlands?
We used to have a whole lot of these in the
Mm.
peak years. It was like 5.5 to 6,000 groweries a year. So that's a lot for a tiny country like the Netherlands. But
Mm.
really, by now, I would say a lot of the growers have moved to Spain.
Ah,
Operations have moved to Belgium. A
right.
lot of wheat comes from Canada and the US. A
Mm.
lot of wheat comes from Thailand.
Yeah.
So what I mentioned before, that politicians who are against legalization would say it won't matter if we legalize because 80% is going abroad, exported anyway. This has never
Mm.
been the case, but now it's almost the other way around, I would say. Nobody knows for sure, of course, but if you just
Mm.
go to coffee shops, you see so much Cali wheat, so much
Mm.
Canadian wheat,
Mm.
and to find Dutch wheat is almost rare, you know.
Ah.
And that's so stupid. You see that. So in a way, you could say that this whole eradication effort and the whole
Mm.
repressive wave has had some result, but of course not the result that any person in the Netherlands smokes a gram less because of it.
Yeah.
No, the wheat now comes from a different producer, somebody else making the money, not Dutch people anymore. Hooray!
Ah.
You know, and a lot of it, I'm sure of that. The Canadian stuff and the Kali stuff. Why does it
Mm.
end up in Europe, including in the UK? Yeah, maybe because it didn't make the test in the lab, and they didn't want to destroy it,
Mm.
sell it off to Europe for a low price. You know, and this will
Yeah.
be very bad for consumers here, of course.
So what about medical cannabis? You've got that in the Netherlands, you said. So how does that work? Do you have like a medical card, and what's the quality like as well, Is it different to the coffee shops? How does it work for
It's
medical
quite
prescriptions and stuff?
it's quite different from the coffee shops, the quality. And
Right.
I would say we legalized medical cannabis almost
Mm.
in the same moment as Canada did. We were the first two countries in the world around
Right.
2001. If
Right.
you look at the state of affairs with medical cannabis in the Netherlands now, it could make you cry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the
Oh dear.
percentage of medical users that has a prescription and has the real legal medical cannabis, you guess, my friend, what percentage?
You're telling me very low kind of thing. Really?
It's 3.9%. It's only a
Of the
few thousand people. After
right.
after almost 25 years where we could have built a whole industry and a whole infrastructure,
Mm,
and we could have instructed doctors and people that
mm,
work in medical professions and medical students, we could have taught them about the endocannabinoid system. We could have told
mm,
them that we have legal cannabis, only if we have a monopoly, because we do have it still. This will change very soon, almost next year, I'd say. But for
mm,
all this time, we had effectively a monopoly on medical cannabis by this one company that Bedrocan. And I do not belong to the group of people that will hate on Bedrocan for everything. I know these
mm,
people. I visited the facility. They are caught in between the ministry that make the rules
mm,
and the patients that they want to serve. The patients always want more. The ministry always wants less, and more control. So they get a lot of flack, in my opinion, that they do not deserve. Which is
mm,
not to say that the quality of their products is super or whatever. No, they have to gamma radiate all
mm.
the flower, but they have to. It's not because they
Yeah.
want to, they have to. And they can explain why. And they can also explain that indeed a part of the terpene content is lost by gamma radiation, but
Mm,
it's really relatively minor, you know. And I have smoked some Bedrocan myself, and to say that it's super bad or that it doesn't work or that the gamma radiation makes the effect go away or something, nah, it had a good effect on me, so. But of course the tragic thing is the promises that were also made when it was introduced back in the day when they legalized it.
mm,
There was supposed to be two publicity campaigns, one aimed at medical professionals and the other one at the general audience. Of
mm.
course, they had to be taught that this is a new thing and that
Yeah.
what they can use for whatever. So they did so many things wrong in the program that by now pretty much everyone, that's the 3.9%. All the other ones, they either go to the coffee shop, they grow it themselves, they get it from friends who grow, whatever, they get it on the internet, but they do not get it because it's super hard to get a prescription. You
Is it?
really, I tried a few times myself.
Yeah.
At one try with one general practitioner that I had, she listened to me, and then she handed me a flyer of addiction care services.
Oh, oh, right.
Yeah, so
Ah.
that really sucks. But just recently in September, I was in the Ministry of Health. They had a small conference about the state of affairs with medical cannabis in the Netherlands, and there were researchers there and some people from the producers' side and trying to make innovative products, etc. And we did. I was a bit more optimistic when I left than when I came, because, for instance, up till now, the coffee shops and the medical world, so to speak, medical cannabis world, were really far apart and wanted to have nothing to do with each other. And now I could see that in the medical community, medical cannabis community, they sort of understand. Listen, if 80% of the patients get it in the coffee shop, we can
Mm.
do like this and not talk to these people, but we rather, it's better if we reach out and try to make the situation better for everyone. But it's yeah, so it's another example of, even when this is legal, so this has nothing to do with the tolerance policy, it's still, they get so many things wrong. For instance, no insurer
Mm.
will reimburse the cost for medical cannabis, even if you
Ah.
do manage to get a prescription. You have to pay everything yourself, and it's not cheap. It's not super expensive. It used to be more expensive. So the flower is quite good, the prices of Bedrocan flower. But for instance, if you want to get like legal medicinal weed oil,
Yeah.
you're paying a lot. There are only
Mm.
a few producers of so they use the Bedrocan to make the medical oil, but you're
Mm.
talking €100, €150 for a little bottle like that. And we know if you have a few plants and you use your trim and you know what to do, you can make it for next to nothing, of course,
Mm.
which a lot of people do.
Wow. Well, I think maybe our medical cannabis scene seems like it's a bit better. It's quite easy to get a cannabis prescription in the UK because they've basically said in the law that it's for any condition that a specialist doctor sees fit will benefit you for it. But you do have to have tried 2 previous medications or therapies. But most people already have by the time they're thinking about medical cannabis. So they've tried 2 types of pill that they can say that haven't worked for their condition. And but the only thing about it is that you're not allowed to smoke it. You're allowed to smoke the medical cannabis. We have to use
Oh yeah,
dry herb vaporizers in the UK.
there's no rules. They advise
Yeah,
against it. They advise against it.
they
But there's
advise
another
against it.
exception. You say the word correctly. Dry herb vaporizers.
Mm.
Another like very misguided policy since I think April last year. It is no longer allowed to buy a dry herb vaporizer online
What?
because they cannot see the difference between a nicotine vape flavored
Mm,
like a banana or a strawberry
mm,
and
mm.
a harm reduction device, which is of course a dry herb vaporizer is a harm reduction device because you don't need smoking. You can vape
Yeah.
your bud. So these people, they have no clue. Every now and then, as the chairman of VOC, I do have a chance to talk to politicians or to a
Mm,
mayor or whatever, a policymaker. Not often, but anytime I do, this is what I see. They have no clue. They hardly
mm.
understand the difference between hash and weed. They
Right.
they never heard of terpenes. They'd never heard of endocannabinoid system. Nothing like that.
Yeah. Well, I think that would go for our politicians too. They don't. They probably know from hearsay about weed. They don't like when we see like we get sometimes news reports about this or that happening in the weed realm, and they're completely clueless. They mention the word strains like they don't know what it means. They don't know about hash. They're always like really dumb kind of as though they've got no interest or have never learned anything about cannabis. And maybe that's just a show that they're trying to put on because everyone knows about cannabis, I would have thought
It,
by now.
I sometimes
Most people, a lot of people have tried it in the UK, even though it's
that's
illegal. I
true.
think it's something
Of
like
course,
30%. So,
that's
a
interesting.
third of people have
Because
tried it.
what would be the reason if they do know better that they play dumb like that because they fear that they are seen as pro drugs or whatever? But
Yeah, yeah.
here, what we see is like, yeah, we just had quite a big conference here in Eindhoven, organized by the coffee shop, one of the coffee shop unions,
Mm,
and I helped them out, doing the programming of the conference and trying to get journalists and making press releases, that kind of a job. And there you see that even though we put a lot of effort in trying to get media into a conference like that,
mm.
they don't show up. They say they will show up, but they don't. It's
Yeah.
really this part of the conference, or it was added to the conference 2 years ago. So this was the second year that we had it. The Cannabis Industry Awards is like a digital election here for like product of the year, hemp product of the year, whatever. And it gets more interesting since the weed experiments, because then you can really reward uh, a strain or a type of hash, because it's guaranteed the same product in these towns that are part of the weed experiment. And
Yeah, do you want to tell us a bit about this weed experiment? This is the
yeah,
legal supply chain, right? That they're
yeah,
experimenting with.
because like, yeah, as we talked about before, it's for years we had this stalemate where the politicians would acknowledge, yeah, it's a bit strange that the coffee shops cannot buy wholesale and cannot grow, but we can't do anything about it, the international treaty. So
Mm,
we had a breakthrough in 2017.
mm,
Imagine, already 8 years ago,
mm.
when the number one pro-legalization party of the Netherlands, the party is called D66, Democrats 66. That was the year that they were founded, 1966.
Right.
They made this law proposal to regulate the back door. So there was no
Yeah.
home growing, all that was not in there, just to make sure that the coffee shops could have normal producers, etc. And this law got a tiny majority in our second chamber. We have like a two-chamber parliament, like you also have, and so it's the
Yeah.
second chamber and the Senate. So they got this tiny majority in the Senate and in the second chamber. Normally, it goes from there to the Senate. The Senate votes on it, and then if there's a majority in the Senate as well, it becomes law. That's how it always goes. Now there were elections right after it got the majority in the second chamber, so they
Right.
waited. The law was there, like a zombie. What are they gonna do? They then took almost a year to form a new government after the elections in 2017. So we, of course, as activists and as cannabis community, were very eager to learn what they were going to do with the weed
Yeah.
law. Then they came out like the rabbit out of the high hat. No, we're going to do an experiment, a small one in only 10 cities. So we have 103 cities that have coffee shops in total. So only in 10 of them, and none of the really big cities, so not Amsterdam, not Rotterdam, not The Hague, not Utrecht. There is this experiment, but so the idea is there are going to be 10 licensed producers that can
Yeah.
sell to the coffee shops in these 10 cities. The total number of coffee shops in these 10 cities is 78. So 78 out of a total number of coffee shops in the Netherlands of 563. So it's limited. It's like 14%, 15% of the total amount. So it took very, very, very long, this whole process. How are you going to select the growers? A lot of people and companies wanted to get in, obviously. So there was a lottery. So a lot of companies that were really well placed and experienced to do this. Yeah, bad luck. You didn't get the right number. And other people who basically had no clue what they were doing, no expertise. Yay! We
I
got
know,
it.
right.
The golden ticket of Willy Wonka. So this took very long. They had to battle against the cities where they want to, establish these grow facilities. Inhabitants were protesting. We don't want no wheat factory in our garden.
Right.
All
Okay.
this shit happened.
Yeah.
People started getting really annoyed by it. How can it take so long? So then they made this sort of a trick. There's one mayor in the Netherlands, the mayor of Breda. He's like he's pushing. He's pushing for 8 years, 10 years already to regulate finally the back door. Whenever big media report on this in the Netherlands, they call this mayor. He's always ready to talk. Explain
Right.
for the 1,000th time that it's smarter to have a whole regulated chain instead of leaving it to the mafia, etc. So
Yeah.
he made this new idea where he said, let's start already, but only in 2 cities of the 10. In my city, Breda, in Tilburg, which is close, and only have the wheat from 3 producers because all the other ones were not ready yet. They were still building the facility because they had all kinds of trouble. So they changed the law. I was quite surprised. This was a good lobby by the mayor to have this happen. So this led to the historic date of December 15, 2023. I was there, and big international media was all there in the coffee shop in Breda when the very, very first regulated produced cannabis was sold in the coffee shop in Breda. And then
Yeah, I remember that happening as well.
yeah, but from that moment on, so end of 23, it did take till April of this year, 25, before finally all the 10 cities had to sell, that were in the experiment, had to sell the regulated weed. So it takes very, very long. But the
Yeah,
results,
sounds
I
like
must
slow
say that
progress.
the results that we have up till now are really good. The
Okay,
wheat,
good.
the wheat is really good. The prices are really low.
Yeah.
And we even I myself am from Eindhoven. It's not in the experiment, but Tilburg, which is in the experiment, is very close to here. It's 20 minutes by train. I'm there. I'll buy that guaranteed clean wheat. And that you know for sure.
Legal supply
Yeah,
chain.
if you buy Gelato 41, you will get Gelato 41. No bullshitting that you get some other stuff that they just labeled because it sells better. Nah, real
Yeah.
and clean.
Okay.
So that's
And
really
what do you?
really good.
So yeah, that actually reminds me. You mentioned the D66 party.
Yeah,
So you said recently, you told me that there's been an election in your country again,
true.
and I wanted to know how the different parties were fixed up for cannabis reform, if you know that, and who won, and
Yeah.
what does it mean now for the future of cannabis?
The good news is that D66 is the winner. They
Yeah.
were by a very small margin, with the extreme right Islam bashing bullshit party is like the second. But they won. D66 won, so they will probably have the prime minister.
Mm.
And this has never happened that this party gets to pick the new prime minister.
Yeah.
But the situation to form a new government is very complicated because a lot of parties have said I will not be in a coalition with this party. So the extreme right anti-Islam party, PVV, almost every other party has blocked them. They are boycotted by all the other parties, but they are the second biggest one. So there you
Mm.
get in trouble of having a majority in your parliament backing the government. And the question now is, will they be able to make a government with four parties that has a majority, or will they
Mm.
try to make a minority government, which could lead to their being voted out at any moment that the opposition likes. So the question now is, there is one party, the Liberal Party, is like conservative Liberal Party.
Mm.
They boycott the left wing party, the big left wing party, which makes no sense. But they have said it all through the campaign: vote
Yeah.
for us. We will not ever be in one government with these socialist left wing loonies. But if they
Right.
keep the blockade like that, how are we
Mm.
ever going to get a government? And to make it more difficult for the cannabis policy, so D66 is 100% for legalization, also legalization of ecstasy, but surely
Ah.
finally get this cannabis coffee shop thing fixed.
Mm.
I
Right.
know the guy personally that is in the parliament and is their guy for drug policy, and he's super motivated. It's not like it's a
Yeah.
whim or anything. He really wants to push it through, so that's all good. But the other party that won big is the Christian Party. They want to even
Mm.
stop the weed experiment.
Oh man.
So yeah, what I hope for is, because what I have seen in 30 years is what happens every single time with the cannabis policy, is that they see it as a niche subject.
Mm.
So when time comes to form the government and make the government program and make the hard decisions, they'll give it away like that. If they
Ah.
can exchange it for a few jobs in the whatever, or some more money for school, all good things, of course,
Mm.
they'll give it up. They'll give it up like that. So my hope is that this time it's the Christian Party that will give it up the
Give
other
it
way
up. Right.
around, saying, okay,
Mm.
we are against cannabis. We'd rather have the weed experiment stop. But if
Mm.
you guys think this is so important
Mm.
and we need a government, we will say, okay, you have your weed experiment and your legalization, but do
Yeah.
something for the church or whatever.
Right. Okay. Hopefully it goes that way. Yeah.
This is
So
what you get.
wow.
This is what you get with coalition politics in America, and also in the
Mm.
UK. You don't have it, but imagine we have something like 15 different parties in Parliament. 15.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about VOC Nederland. What do you stand for and what do you do? What are your operations? VOC.
The name, the acronym in Dutch stands for Verbond voor opheffing van het cannabisverbod, which translates as Union for the Abolition of Cannabis Prohibition.
Mm.
So our goal is right there in our name. We want it. We want cannabis to be completely out of any penal law. The whole
Mm.
ban should go. It should be
Mm.
destroyed. So we got started in 2009, a few weeks after an event in The Hague, which is the center of our government, is where the government resides in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And I did not organize it, but I was there as a journalist, and it was a remarkable event. I never saw anything like it. It was called the Cannabis Tribunal, and there were a number of members of parliament there, but also coffee shop owners, medical cannabis patients, drug reform activists, scientists, all these people that really never met before, that were all in their own scene and ivory tower. They got
Mm.
together, and it was actually Ben Dronkers, the founder of Sensi Seeds and the Hash Museum, that put up €100,000
Mm.
as a reward for anybody who could prove wrong the statement cannabis prohibition has more negative effects than positive effects.
Mm.
Anybody who could prove the statement wrong, beyond doubt, would get €100,000. So
Yeah.
the idea of the event was they had a professor in philosophy of the law. So a
Mm.
really smart guy that really understands arguing and law and all this.
Mm. Mm.
The event was 2 days, and people would try to prove the statement wrong or say that they agree with the statement and why. And
Mm.
the professor of law, he, at the end of the event, he weighed all the arguments. He was not
Mm.
against legalization or for legalization. He just listened very well what a judge should do,
Mm.
and just weigh the arguments for what they were worth and if they were worth anything. And of course, you can understand by now what the end result was. Nobody could prove it.
Never do one. Yeah.
This was a true statement. It has more negative effects than positive effects. So then the guy who did organize the event intellectually, a guy called Joop Omer, who he's deceased, unfortunately.
Mm.
But this guy, he said, right after the event, for all the people who came here to watch the event and take part in the event, we can all go our separate ways like we do normally, or we can make an action group
Mm.
and try to make something with this statement. If we all agree, and if it's beyond any doubt, proven by a judge
Yeah.
that this is a true statement, we have to get rid of cannabis prohibition if it has more
Mm.
negative effects. So anybody who wants to help out and join this group, we'll meet in Amsterdam next month. So yeah, I was there because then I was only a journalist,
Mm.
but I really could see that this issue, as you also know, is such a tough nut to crack. There's
Right. Yeah.
so much
Definitely.
stigma. There's so much taboo.
Mm.
There's so much
Mhm.
misunderstanding. There's so many different interests, by alcohol, by pharma, by the jail complex, whatever, that I thought to only be a journalist and write about this again and again, how wrong prohibition is, that this plant is so useful, blah, blah. I really
Mm.
also felt like this is a good moment for me to cross the line between journalism and activism and
Mm.
help out these guys because I thought this guy Joop Ome became a very good friend of mine, and he totally taught me everything about activism that I know. Basically, such a bright mind and really such a big inspiration for me and so many other people. But I could see that I could help him with what I can do. Is like being a journalist and a photographer is get the message out. And if there are events, make sure there are press releases, make sure that there's a good website, all this shit. So yeah,
Mm.
this is how VOC started, and it was the input of older activists like Joop Ome and some other people that joined early on.
Mm.
That they managed to not only get me on board, but also other relatively new young people. And one of the first things that we did two more of these cannabis tribunal events. So like the debating event in The Hague with politicians and everything. But we
Mm.
also started in 2009 organizing Cannabis Liberation Day, a free festival in Amsterdam. And the name and the idea of the event is funny to note. It was actually a Belgian idea first because Joop Ome, he was Dutch, but he lived in Antwerp, which is
Mm.
close to the border, like the harbor town. And in Antwerp, he had already organized 3 or 4 editions of Cannabis Liberation Day, which there is a lot more hassle and even more stigma and all very banned and whatever. So, of
Right.
course, in Amsterdam, we had the chance to really build up a nice event. And from the start, like the first one, I was a bit involved, but somebody else did the programming. But then from the second one on until the 10th edition, I basically ran the whole thing and got the bands and the speakers and the sponsors and all this. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
grew eventually to over 10,000 visitors in 2018. And by then we got national media and visitors from Japan and Brazil and whatever. It really, yeah, it made it quite a big impact. And we sort of stopped it because it took so much time from our organization. Really, we were working on that one event the whole year, so that the
Mm,
lobbying, because that's very important what we do to lobby not only the journalists but also the media and connect media
mm,
to sources is what I do a lot. I get so many mails and telephone calls by journalists saying, "I need a medical patient. Do you know a big grower? I need a
okay.
coffee shop owner that's female, whatever." And
Yeah.
we really believe in. That's why we are called like the union for bonds. We try to be like a bit of a cement in the whole movement and
Mm,
trying to not so much unite everybody because that's too hard, but at least get people talking and direct people to other people so you can better the image and make progress.
So, what do you want for cannabis? You obviously don't want the status quo. You don't want. Do you don't want more decriminalization? Do you want legalization and regulation, as it were, for the whole thing? You
Totally.
said no penal penalties. So, what does it really look like to you? What would there still be limits?
Yeah, we sometimes call it the beer and wine model because
Right.
I don't know how it is in the UK, but here in the Netherlands, you are free to make your own beer and make your own
Yeah.
wine. And I checked it recently, there is no limit on the amount. The only
Ah.
thing that is relevant is that you consume it yourself
Mm,
or with your friends, is how
mm,
they phrase it. So the minute you start selling it,
yeah.
then it's a different game. You have to pay taxes, they will check on the product, you need to put your ingredients, whatever. But
Mm,
if you make your own alcohol, not all the alcohol, because I think with the hard liquor it's different. But with beer and wine, there is no
mm,
limit, and the only relevant thing is, do you sell it, yes or no? That would be my personal ideal, and also I think for VOC as a whole, what we want with cannabis. The, the,
mm,
the minute you start talking about an amount of plants, for instance,
yeah.
uh, it's very we have this number of 5 plants. Why? Germany now has 3 plants. The Czech Republic from January next year, they also will
Mm,
have maximum 3 plants. Why? Colombia, I think it's 15.
right.
Why can it be 7 or can it be 20? To
Mm,
me, it's all what you call it? Willekeurig. I
personal
forget what.
use.
No, no. It's like it's arbitrary. That's the word. It's
Oh,
an
arbitrary.
arbitrary
Yeah.
thing, whether it's 1, 2, 9, or 15 plants. If I live out there in with a big farm, and I have a lot of tomatoes and whatever,
Mm,
what's the harm with me having 100 plants? If I want
mm,
100 plants and it's my land, why not? So this is at least I think what we should strive for. But as an activist, something you also learn is that in order to get some results, you need smaller steps. And you need to
mm,
also celebrate the smaller steps and not only be frustrated by not reaching your end goal. So now, as long as people get evicted for one plant, it would obviously be progress if we had some kind of a law change or even a directive that would say if you have 5 plants, you would never get in trouble, for
mm,
instance. Law and the rules there is very important because I would always say talk about female flowering plants.
Mm.
So that any plant that is not flowering yet, a mother plant, a clone, is not banned, like it is in Austria, for instance. You can go in Austria into a supermarket and buy clones and wheat plants. It's
Mm.
legal. Only if you use it to smoke it, then the plants become illegal.
Oh man, these laws are so messed up everywhere. You know, there's no.
That's the thing, you know. In the UK, it's rotten, and it makes no sense here. But
Mm.
in every country, it's even in Canada, there are things that are not good.
Mm. Right. Well, I think we're coming to the end, but I do have one more question about spirituality. Do you believe in any form of spirituality or God or gods? And does cannabis fit into that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I once was in a train, and I saw sitting there on a bench a member of parliament for the Christian Party who was
Mm.
like the spokesperson on drug policy. This is a long
Yeah.
time ago. And I thought this is a good chance. It was long before VOC even existed. I thought I'm
Yeah.
gonna go over to this guy and I'm
Mm.
gonna ask him what's the problem that your party has with drugs, you know, what's the big problem?
Yeah.
And he thought for a second. I asked him, why are you so against drugs? Your party, the Christian Party, why are you so against drugs? And he
Mm.
said, because they are a competitor to God.
Combative.
Yeah. No. Competitor.
A competitor to God, right? I see. Because they're so good.
If you have the drugs, you don't need religion, the organized religion. You have the spirituality. I
Mm.
believe in, I think in the entheogen, is that, if that's how you say it, the
Yeah.
entheogen concept, the God in ourselves. Because also from some mushroom trips, you get more of that feeling,
Mm.
which you know rationally, that we are all made of the same atoms, you know,
Mm.
my head and the table, and also the joint. It's all made of the same
Yeah.
atoms.
Hmm.
It's all one dance of atoms that take different shape, and it's a
Hmm.
cycle. All this, you know. So this is, to me, is a godly thing of which we are all part
Mm.
together. So
Yeah.
if it, the whole concept of a god would maybe be all these atoms together or something. But
Right.
but to me, I was raised here in the Netherlands in the south as a good Catholic boy, and
Mm.
I'm still very much interested in organized religion
Mm.
from a sociological point of view. And to
Mm.
me, the origins of religion have to do with not being able to explain phenomena around you, and finding some sort of a narrative to
Mm.
explain things, but also to keep people from killing each other. And also, and this I got from one professor. This will be the final anecdote because I love it very much.
Okay.
It was actually, it happened at this very first cannabis tribunal,
Mm.
the event, the debating event in The Hague. Somebody walked in there on the first day. I wasn't there. I was only there the second day because I didn't know. I found out they were streaming it on the first day.
Right.
So somebody was had walked into the place where they had this event and gave him the microphone, because this
Mm.
guy was Luke Hulsman, and an old criminal.
Mm. 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 It's going a bit crackly there. I think we might have to actually end the live because my phone is running out of battery. It's about to die, so we'll have to.
Oh,
I'm really sorry about that.
then we'll have the anecdote some other time.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it.
you can tell me the end of the anecdote on X or something, but I'm going to have to quit the live. So thank you so much. It's been fascinating talking to you or listening to you talk about cannabis in the Netherlands. And
My pleasure.
yeah, I've really enjoyed listening. I was off in my own, not in my own world, but I was really there, fascinated by everything you were saying. You obviously know a lot about it all, and great work that you've been doing as well in VOC. So thank you for sharing all that knowledge and insight into the cannabis scene in the Netherlands. So
Okay.
for everyone who's listening, I do apologize for having to cut this episode slightly short, but my battery is running out. There will be more LCUK shows coming up soon. We've got Peter Reynolds from the organisation Clear, which is a cannabis law reform advocacy group in the UK. And then someone off TikTok who does cannabis content called Treacle Towner. This week coming up on the LCUK show and next week. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Derrick, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much again. I will have to off the live now. So
Okay.
thanks for
Bye-bye.
watching, guys. Bye-bye and good night.